like a lot? Yeah, yeah. The one with
I kind of see Uncle Eric. You look like my Uncle Eric. So my mom Liz, Jennifer, Clay, and Uncle Eric kind of look like. Yeah. See the hop line, yeah. I've met a few times. Yeah. Wish you would have got them.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
I was just gonna look up.
So then do you like say a couple things?
Yeah, I'd be glad to do that.
And Georgia said she just said a couple things and then.
Never actually met him. The ERP person. Been part of him for a few years.
I got a letter a few years ago that I was qualified to join.
Yeah. No.
Just gonna look something up.
Jed, just make sure you got that. You're fine.
Probably a day late or something, but you know.
No, it was something simple. It was just a curiosity thing. I told.
So this says, I'll just notify, but it really just types in a sentence where it's almost like going to be us. We don't know what the
I guess so.
It has to be something like that, so she's going to be contacting the case private before it passes director.
Oh, that's nice and look at.
Well, because the property, the question is whether or not that is actually on the property line. So unless she notifies the adjacent property owner, we just don't know if there's a discrepancy. So the point of bringing this back is to have her saying she's going to notify the adjacent property owner. If someone goes in and like, yeah, I'm going to the property line, usually if all we do, well, whether they are.
Don't they have to have a survey and then all the juices already? I thought that was a
Only if
change.
there's a discrepancy. But we don't know if there's a discrepancy if she doesn't notify the property owners.
However you want it worded, just send it to her.
Mayor, I've got my associate at another meeting. She gets into her head on this one issue regarding this guy. I'll take a quick call. Thank you. I'm sure she'll be fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we're about to get started here, folks. Good evening, everyone. We'll call to order Chisholm City Council meeting, February 26, 2025 at 5:30 p.m. Susan, would you please take roll call?
Yes. Counselor Halava?
Present.
Counselor Fountain? Absent. Counselor Vaki? Absent. Counselor Varga?
Present.
Counselor Halverson?
Present.
Mayor Lance?
Here. All right, council, we look for a motion to adopt the agenda. We do have a couple out this evening. Good luck to the hockey team that's down south. So the changes, Stephanie will be taking over for Mandy on A. We're gonna leave it right where it is, and Steph will just take those up. And then Bridget will take over for Larry's. And we'll just get rid of, we'll move Katie to D, Bridget up to C, Katie to D, Stephanie will be E, Jed will be F, miscellaneous will be E. With those, there's a change on here, what we got?
It was also on the WinSeth professional services for the Thomas Tony Memorial Arch. There was just a change on the proposed fees. They would go to they will now be hourly. Correct?
Hourly amounts.
Yeah. And that's
Okay,
on
so that correction under Stephanie on number 1. Okay, with those changes, I'd look for a motion to adopt the agenda.
Make a motion.
Thank you, Jed.
Support.
Thank you, Jim. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Pledge of allegiance if you would.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, well, good evening, everybody. We will start with public participation. And we have, yeah, please.
Today we have Georgia Lane from the Arrowhead Area Agency on Aging, sorry. And then we also have Jay Hepla from the AARP Minnesota. They're here to say a couple words on the age-friendly communities that Chisholm has been working towards.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks. So great to be back here again today. My name is Georgia Lane. I'm with the Area Agency on Aging. We're part of the Arrowhead Regional Development Commission. Congrats on the hockey win. I am a Hermantown native, but I was cheering on another team to win, so don't tell anybody else that. So I'll be quick tonight. I'm really excited to be here, and it's been fun to work with Stephanie and her crew. If it was probably about a year ago, I came and talked to you guys about the age-friendly designation. This is part of a global designation. Stuff is happening a lot in Minnesota around preparing for our rapidly changing age population. We know that 1 in 3 people are over the age of 60, and we talk a lot about the economic value that older adults bring when we are in communities that are more age-friendly. So we are at the point now, now that we are officially in the network, Steph and her team, with the support of St. Louis County Public Health, are working on some surveys. And it's really excited to see kind of the folks who've showed up at the table, and really thinking about aging from a broad spectrum. So it's not just talking about like what supports do we need. It's like how do we as a region work to help people stay here for as long as they want, because we know this is where people want to age. So we could say a lot more about what Age Friendly is about. We are supported through Age Friendly Minnesota, which is statewide work happening, and it's really great to have Chisholm on the map and being part of that work. That's all I have to say, and then I'm actually going to hand it over to Jay, who's here with us today from AARP.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Georgia, Mayor Lance, and councilors. Thanks for having me. Jay Hoppola from AARP here in Minnesota. You might have guessed I came up from the Twin Cities, but sort of coming back home for me. In fact, Councilor Holloway and I are second cousins, and we were just catching up about our families that grew up on County Road 904 over by Babbitt, and my folks still live up in Ely and all of that. Part of my story when I heard that Chisholm was interested in joining our age-friendly network is my dad's dad. My grandpa spent the last 8 years of his life or so back in the 1990s or early 2000s. He passed away in the nursing center here in Chisholm. This is where he spent his last years of his life. And I got my hands on his memoir typed up in a folder. And he had a lot to say about his really nice experience with the nurses and the people that took care of him at the nursing home here in Chisholm. But things were a lot different back in 2003. Today, I would assume that maybe your population has twice as many people over the age of 65, twice as many people over the age of 85 as you did just 20 years ago or so. And that's really what I'm here to recognize is your commitment as a community with your leaders and your residents working together to understand the demographic shift and also how the needs and preferences that your residents have are changing. Being older, growing older today is different than it used to be. And so joining the Age Friendly Network with AARP is a recognition of your commitment. It's not necessarily a significance of your achievements yet, but it's a recognition of your commitment to listening to your residents, like Georgia said, hearing from people about what they have here in Chisholm and in the region and what they need and what you can improve. So we have the resources for you, informational resources that we've gathered through a lot of research and through the network, which nationwide is close to 1,000 communities now, from places like Los Angeles, California, and New York City to Minneapolis, to a lot of small towns and villages all across the country that are making the same commitment. So you now have access to that network of communities in Minnesota and all across the country. And it's about alignment. Georgia talked about age-friendly Minnesota and the structure that's being stood up. And the Age-Friendly Minnesota Council, from its beginning back in 2019, had set its priorities, first of all, well, not even first of all, but part of it, half of it, was to work across state government. So not just through health services or human services and aging services, but through all of state government, to address the needs of the older aging population, but then also to respond to local community needs. So what you're going to need here in Chisholm or Mountain Iron or Virginia or other communities, Hibbing, that intends to join the network, are going to be different than they are elsewhere. And our framework that we offer you is flexible in that way. So I just look forward to working together with all of you. And the Area Agency on Aging is a great partner for you here locally as well. And I just want to recognize you with this certificate that the City of Chisholm, Minnesota has committed to becoming more age-friendly under the criteria established by AARP, and you've been accepted as a member in the AARP Network of Age-Friendly States and Communities this year. So thank you and
thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
And we'd love to take a picture with you. So.
We do have
Absolutely.
some community members of our
Yeah.
AARP committee too.
Should we go front and center?
Yeah, yeah.
Front and center, I like that.
Sure.
Might have to go.
You go in the front. I have a wide angle lens. You want to jump on either end? I can capture everybody. Oh, like this? Yeah, that's good.
Just everybody looks like walleye eye. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you. Thanks for coming, Jay.
For sure.
Thanks, Jake. Appreciate it.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
that picture was not on the agenda.
Thanks for obliging. Well, a great addition to the community, so appreciate it. Appreciate all the work. I want to just say I appreciate Stephanie for leading the campaign. Where not the campaign, but with our crew and our committee. So, thank you. All right, Councilor Hollova, is there any other public participation listed?
There is none, Mayor.
No. Okay. Moving on, council reports. Ambulance director.
No report.
Fire chief.
No report.
City engineer. Jim.
I'll be quick. Just a reminder to you, we will be receiving bids on our aggregate crushing next Wednesday morning at 11 o'clock if you care to attend. So we'll be hopefully bringing those results to you at your March 12th meeting for award of that contract. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Parks, Trails, Rec Director, Bridget. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. A couple updates. One is Travis Vaki tonight wanted to call in to share an update about soccer. I can give the soccer update. The progression of creating our own league just keeps continuing on, and actually right now we're at 74 participants, which is just down, I think, 2024. Once we closed registration, we had 95 in total. So we're getting close to that number again. We're actually going to need some more coaches because the two teams that we're playing, one is Nashwauk Keewatin and one is Kicks for Fun out of Hibbing. They are hoping for smaller team sizes. So that's a good public announcement. We are needing some more coaches for this league because our numbers are looking pretty good. And we will not be pursuing in 2025 AYSA or MYSA designation. We won't be playing under that umbrella, but we are doing all of the policies and procedures that they incorporate into their leagues, and we're also insuring the same way they insure, and we are completing the same trainings that they would have had us do if we were under their blanket this year. So next year, 2026, we need to decide if it's MYSA or AYSA, but we'll get there. So it'll be a fun rec league this year, as we always thought it would be. And my other update is, was it about the skate rink? Oh, it was. So Devin, our clerk treasurer, is a hockey guy, and he determined that the arena boards should be used for City of Chisholm's outdoor skate rink at Southside Skate Park. So I knew that we would be looking for extending the existing boards that are currently there. Actually, I was pursuing some grant funding and reaching out to Minnesota Wild on that, but it looks like we don't have to pursue grant funding because those boards will work. So it won't be all of them that we use, but they're in really good condition, says Devin. So we'll have more of a smaller hockey rink at Southside Skate Rink. Next year, maybe? It'll be this summer that they get installed by Public Works. So that's all my updates.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Library Supervisor. Katie, good evening.
Good evening, everyone. Quick update coming from the library. We're in our last week and a half of our winter reading program, and we have 148 people signed up, so that ends on March 7th. We've partnered again with AARP and AEOA for tax season. So we've got 3 volunteers at the library on Thursdays from 9:30 to 1:30 to help people file their taxes. Appointments are booking up fast. I think we're booked through the end of March right now, but do have some appointments available in April. If anybody's interested, give the library a call and we'll get you set up. And then lastly, Debbie and Michelle have been in the process of kind of just going through our collection, doing some dusting of bookshelves, and working through discards. And so we are going to be having a book sale that's open to the public on Monday, March 10th, and Tuesday, March 11th, and it'll be from 9:30 to 4:30. So we'd love to have you there to get rid of some old books.
Excellent. Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you.
City Administrator, Stephanie, good evening.
Good evening. No report tonight.
Wow, I jumped right in there. I totally forgot council reports. Skipped you guys totally. I just right on there. Councilor Oliva, let's start with you tonight.
Good evening. I got kind of a list here. Stephanie and Bridget and I went to the St. Louis County at the Capitol Days. We met with Senator Farnsworth and Representative Ward West and talked about the city of Chisholm's concerns, projects we're working on and stuff. So a really good meeting, went really well. Attended the EDA meeting, Public Utilities Commission meeting, Central Anne Sanitary Sewer District meeting. Attended 2 canvas meetings for the new ordinance and a garden meeting and 5th Street Southwest Improvement meeting.
Lots of meetings.
Yeah, that's meetings.
Yeah. Busy month. Thank you. Jim, good evening.
I have just a little tiny report. I attended was supposed to be the annual meeting on Monday of the museum, and it got canceled because the speaker got sick.
Oh, no. Okay, thank you. Marty, good evening.
Good evening. I attended a campground committee meeting and a redhead committee meeting. And that's all I have to report on.
Yeah, perfect, thank you. I joined in quite a few of those meetings with Councilor Oliva. Yeah, nothing really to report on of them, but yeah, it was a busy month. All All right, so moving on, council, we will look for a motion to approve the consent agenda, which consists of the list of bills which are in your packet, communications, minutes of previous city council meetings, payroll, and overtime. And I do just want to point out that under item C, number 1, from the February 12th meeting minutes, there should have been a note at the end to say that the regular meeting was reconvened at 6:52 p.m. With that addition, I would look for a motion and support.
Motion.
Thank you, Jim.
Second.
Thank you, Jed. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Any unfinished business? New business. Stephanie, start off with Mandy's items here. You mind if I just jump in real quick
Yeah,
here?
sure.
So this one here, the first one with the ordinance of fences. I didn't realize that there wasn't a separation between that on that last sentence there. So if it's right with the council, I would just bypass this and bring it to the next council meeting. I think it needs to be plain and simple as its own sentence at the very end there that says, prior to erecting any fence, adjacent property owners will be notified by the building official. Just so that there is no question there. I don't want to have any discrepancies future on where it was, there wasn't a discrepancy on the property line, or if someone said they were X amount of feet away from the property line, and then have the adjacent property line owner come out and say, I disagree on that property line, so they're not 5 feet off. So if it's all right with you, I would hold this back until the next.
Which was that in?
So at the very end of the yellow, I think we should have a new sentence
Okay.
where
Oh,
it
the
specifically
header.
says, yeah.
Mhm. The notification language.
Yep. Yeah.
You don't want to hold it on the table that next meeting?
Yeah, I think we'll just bring it right back to the next one. So
Okay, so that'll be the next agenda item, which will be the first reading for the cannabis ordinance number 115. Planning Commission held a public hearing on Monday, prior to this meeting, for the cannabis ordinance. Find the attached ordinance here, looking for the first reading approval.
All right, council, this follows with the public meeting that we just had earlier tonight. With the discussion that followed, I would look for a motion and support to administer the first reading.
Make a motion.
Thank you, Jed.
Support.
Thank you, Jim. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
Already opposed. Motion carries. Yep. Moving on. Jim.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. If you will please turn to page 37, I'll just quickly go through the itemization of this. If you look over to column E, it talks about this period completed amount, and you see that design and DES is detailed engineering study are items that are being, an additional percentage is being paid, from which there is no retainage on those professional services. And then up above on mobilization, general conditions, and the refrigeration systems, you see an additional almost $152,000 in work that was completed during this period, from which there will be retainage withheld. And then if you look over on column G, then you see what's been completed and stored to date, which now totals a little over almost $713,500. And then utilizing those numbers, if you'll go back to the previous page, on page 36, please, on that left side, you see the amount of the contract, and then being over $5.5 million worth of work. Item 4 is the total completed to date, which is at $713,450 almost. The 5% retainage on the non-professional services amounts to $15,358.71, less what was previous invoice, such that the current payment due is $221,512.90. And I would recommend approval of that pay application in that amount. And in that regard, Stephanie, correct me, but I think Once the skating rink shuts down now the end of March,
Middle of March.
middle of March, they will move in at that point and start the reconstruction, the reconditioning, replacement of materials, the upgrading of that project. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that I can, but I would recommend approval of pay application number 3 in that amount of $221,512.90.
Hey, council, unless there's any questions, I'd look for a motion to approve pay application number 3. Again, in the amount of $221,512.90.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Marty.
Support.
Thank you, Jed. Any further discussion?
Jim,
Yes, sir.
did you say this is for the arena?
Yes.
Or did I mishear you?
Mm-hmm.
No, the ice arena. The ice arena and the curling club.
Okay.
It's under a contract that was approved, what, probably a year ago, something like that.
Okay.
Such that it's really good because there's a refrigeration system that needed to be ordered, and I think that's ordered and delivered, if I'm not mistaken. So once the ice arena shuts down, they're in there and starting to work, and I think they're proposed to be completed, what,
By
about
October.
October?
Yes.
Something like
Yep.
that. About, so we got about 6 months to complete that work.
Right? Yeah. Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. And then if you'll turn to pages 38 and 39, what you have before you is the approval of the plans and specs for the 5th Street South project between 2nd Avenue and 4th Avenue that we held a public hearing on earlier this evening. And as you read that, what we are proposing is that in about 3 weeks, on March 19th, we are proposing to receive bids on that project at 11:30 here at City Hall, and hopefully bringing it back to your council meeting a month from tonight for approval and award. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have, but recommend adoption of Resolution 0225-26.
Hey, council. Unless there's any questions, I'd look for a motion.
Motion.
Thank you, Jim.
Second.
Thank you, Marty. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Bridget. Welcome back.
Thanks. We'll see how fast I can roll through these 13 items. All right. So on page 41, you're looking at Larry's Public Works seasonal labor job description. And he is requesting for council action to approve the job description with the change being the adjusted wage. That's the only change made.
Okay. Council, I'll look for a motion and support to approve the new job description for seasonal laborers.
Make a motion.
Thank you, Jed.
Support.
Thank you, Jim. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. The next one is page 44, and this is a request to post and hire for up to 20 positions, which cover parks, cemetery, water department, sewer department, campground, and Redhead.
Council, I'd look for a motion and support to post and hire for the seasonal laborers.
Make the motion.
Thank you, Marty.
Second.
Thank you, Jed. Any further discussion?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Maybe you can answer, maybe you can't. What are the seasonal workers supposed to do at the Redhead?
At Redhead, it's primarily weed whacking. Sometimes if they have assistance from our trail builder, they might be doing a little bit more in terms of like raking grade on, to flatten the trail surface, but primarily it's weed whacking. The weeds in Redhead are a huge issue, and our volunteers do an excellent job, but they don't always get to every trail all of the time, so it's a little bit of weed whacking.
All right. Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
The next one I could have taken as well as Larry, so it's a good one for me to ask, is Campground and Trails Coordinator, job description, requesting council to approve this job description with the only change being an adjusted wage. And if this feels new to you, the coordinator position was new last year, so we did have it, and ultimately we just increased it from a seasonal laborer who had done it in past years to a coordinator, because there is technology use and reservations and customer service that goes above and beyond what a typical seasonal laborer position is hired to do.
Thank you, Bridget. So I would look for a motion and support to approve the Campground and Trails Coordinator job description.
Support. Or motion.
Thank you, Jim.
I'll second.
Thank you, Marty. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
And then the next request is to post and hire for the position.
Council, look for a motion and support to post and hire for the position.
Make a motion?
Thank you, Jed.
Support.
Thank you, Jim. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
On page 52, we have a trail contract for trail building that is funded through the LCCMR. This particular round of LCCMR contracts would be going to the same companies that we had do the first round of them for LCCMR. So we're looking at Fine Line Trails again. That's this one in front of you. The other one is Rock Solid. Both of them performed well on the job in the last round, and they both came in as the lowest bids on this round. So this particular one is for $99,000 for Fine Line to complete trails 1 and 7. In your packet, there should be a map, or there should be a map printed available to you for where the trails are located. Again, this is LCCMR fully funded.
Okay. Thank you, Bridget. I'd look for a motion and support to enter into contract with Fine Line Trails LLC, amount of $99,000, trails 1 and 7.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Marty.
Second?
Thank you, Jed. Any further discussion?
Bridget?
Mm-hmm.
You appear, well, I've never heard of LCCMR. What is that?
And I always forget how to say it. So get me here, Steph, if I can't do it. Citizen, well, legislate, so L, legislative.
You just
Commission.
Citizen
Citizen Commission. I knew it had citizen in it. Commission. This was a grant application submit, and this will be why I can't remember it. I didn't submit this grant application. Jordan Metza at the Minnesota Discovery Center submitted this long time ago, and yeah.
Legislative
Citizen Commission on Minnesota Resources.
Yeah. Lottery dollars.
Lottery dollars. Yeah. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I hope they don't watch this. Sorry, LCCMR. We'll put your name on the sign, I promise. The next one is to enter into contract, same RFP with Rock Solid. Rock Solid's the big builder who does the work really quickly, and they bid low and they do a good job. So they got trails 2 through 9, Sands number 7, and that total is $116,266.
Council, look for a motion and support to enter into contract with Rock Solid Trail Contracting LLC in the amount of $116,266.92 for trails 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, and 9.
Make a motion?
Thank you, Judd.
I'll second.
Thank you, Marty. Any further discussion?
One small comment. There was a typo on page 54. It's not in the contract, but on the agenda item. First line, it says fine line trails instead of rock solid.
Oh.
Does it? Oh, on the memo?
on the
Yeah, on
memo
the
Okay.
side. Yep.
So we'll get that updated on the memo. Glad it doesn't say it in the contract.
Right.
I don't think it's in the contract.
All those in
Is this
favor?
also paid by?
LCC money.
All funded. Great work.
Well, that was Jordan, but more are coming.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
On page 89, this is a RFP that I'd like to put out for bid for the Longyear Lake Pump Track. It is also a skate park. We call it a pump track skate park, I think, in this description. But essentially, what we're anticipating is a concrete pump track, which is really friendly, multimodal. So what we noticed is the kids at Longyear Lake Park are riding their bikes on the skate park already. Not a lot of skateboards are using it, but the bikes are. So this will be an addition to that park in the center of the park, which passed through the master plan through council a while back. And we finished the RFP to put out to bid for $175,000 for the pump track skate park. It'll have several skate park elements, and there was one other thing I was going to say about it, and I might have forgotten, but I can answer any questions you might have about it, because it's a different thing for us to have at Longyear Lake Park.
Hey, Council, I'd look for a motion and support to approve the Longyear Lake Pump Track Skate Park RFP.
Motion.
Thank you, Jim.
One second.
Thank you, Jed. Any questions for the discussion?
What is the pump track?
So a pump track is essentially, it's hard to describe without a visual, but it's a paved track, and kind of like BMX, if you, yeah. Yeah, so if you can imagine a BMX track, but it's paved, mountain bikes use it to, it's a skill building thing, so actually kids in town will be able to learn how to make those berm turns and how to like ride. What's cool about it is it has a lot of moguls that you don't then have to pedal. Once you get up the speed, you can just coast over them, and it's a lot of fun. So it's definitely going to be a popular spot for kids, and I think a good learning experience before parents are sending them over to Redhead to get on those trails. If they learn here in town, because they can ride their bike to it, and then parents will have more confidence in them to head over to Redhead.
Where at the park is this going into the fence?
At Longyear Lake Park, it's in the center between the playground and the courts. So we're looking in phase 1 to redo the court system, basketball, pickleball. This will go in the center, which is currently a green space. And some green space will still survive, yeah. You'll be able to walk around this pump track.
Okay.
But yeah, and then this is fully funded through IRRR. And the purpose of the grant that was written with IRRR on this one was to have more connectivity of Redhead into Chisholm, so that the folks coming to Redhead are coming into Chisholm as well, which we found doesn't always happen. But now Longyear Lake Park is going to be on the big Redhead map, so people will want to come into town. It'll be a win-win.
Absolutely. Thank you, Bridget. And thank you to the park department, everything that you guys laid in place, so, Parks and Rec, appreciate it. Any further discussion?
Just a couple questions for Bridget. I believe at our committee meeting, we were talking about a June to June warranty instead of October to October, just so that we would have 2 winters of freeze thaw in case there was an issue.
Are you
This is something I noted.
I think, you're reading June in there?
No, it says October of this year to October of 26. I think we were thinking of June 26 to
Yeah,
June
I thought there was an
27.
added sentence that pushes that date out without
I think it can,
specifying?
because if the
Okay.
substantial completion
Yeah.
overruns, then the warranty is a year later, so I think we're okay. And I didn't really see anything on the soil and concrete testing that we were talking about doing. I didn't, maybe I missed it, but I didn't see it in there.
Yeah, we did ask for that to be added, so,
Yeah, maybe I missed it, but I don't see it. Maybe it's something we'll have to talk to Pete about. An addendum, perhaps.
which
We
which
can do later.
can happen.
Okay.
Okay. All right, anything else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, on page 116 is job description for summer recreation coordinator. This is the CSRP coordinators. We hire 2 of them each year. I'm asking for council review and approval of their job description. The only update there is a rate increase. No other changes were made to the job description.
Okay, council, I'd look for a motion support for, to approve the CSRP coordinated job description. Thank you, Jim.
Second.
Thank you. Yeah. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
It's nice to see the raise, the pay going up.
Yeah.
All those
Yeah.
in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
There's a lot of work in youth development that should be rewarded. On page 121 is another position that last year, same as the campground coordinator, we added this position. It's called Parks, Trails, Recreation Coordinator, and this job basically functions as a leader for the seasonal employees. We know with young adults working and teenagers working, any leadership that you can provide them with consistent supervision and just physically being there with them is helpful. So that's the primary role of this position, and this position does a little bit come over and help us with CSRP when this position is available.
Hey, council, I'll look for a motion and support to post and hire for the CSRP coordinators.
Make a motion.
Support.
You were talking about the job description of number 6 and skipped
Oh.
over number 5, I think. This
Did
one
I?
was here, but I might well be wrong.
Well, you could be well right.
We just missed the post and hire of the.
Of the coordinators. I skipped that, so we'll have
Okay.
I wish
Well,
it
we're
was
still looking for
combined.
motion support to post and hire for the CSRPs, but thank you for the preamble.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's- So, council, I'll look for a motion support to post and hire for the CSRP coordinator position.
Make a motion.
Thank you, Jed.
Support.
Thank you, Jim. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for the catch, Mr. Johnson. And we've got the preamble, so look for a motion and support for the Parks Trails Rec Coordinator job description.
Motion.
Thank you, Jim.
Support.
Thank you, Marty. Any further discussion? Thanks again, Jim. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Page 124 is approval to post and hire for Parks, Trails, Rec Coordinator.
All right, council, I look for a motion and support.
Make a motion.
Thank you, Jed.
Support.
Thank you, Jim. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And the final one
Oh,
is.
2 more.
Oh,
Yep, so now we're at the
Right, sure.
rec program specialist.
Final
There's so much, there's
position.
so much, you know, that's all right.
two things that have to happen. Okay, so requesting approval of the updated Chisholm Summer Rec Program, Summer Rec Specialist job description. These are the rec younger staff who are working under the coordinators at Chisholm Summer Rec Program. And the increase is $1, I believe. So That would be the request.
All right, council, look for a motion and support to approve the job description for CSRP specialist.
Motion.
Thank you, Jim.
Second.
Thank you, Marty. Further discussion? I just want to point out how important it is to have that, expansion of the duties there, so the support for the coordinators, so,
Yeah.
excellent. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
And looking for approval to post and hire up to 9 rec specialists. And they really are the champions of that program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, council, I look for a motion and support to approve the post and hiring for the CSRP summer rec specialists.
Make a motion.
Thank you, Jed.
Second.
Thank you, Marty. Any further discussion?
Bridget, what are summer rec specialists?
It's, we called them aides before,
okay.
but specialists is a better title than aides, I think, in 2025, when
Okay.
2023 I changed it.
Okay.
Yeah, same job description. Yeah.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bridget.
Thanks, Bridget.
All right, library supervisor, Katie.
All right. So on page 131 of your packet, we've got a proposal from WITSEF for an accessibility survey to be conducted at the library. So this is a budgeted item, and I'm looking for council approval to move forward with the proposal. And essentially, the study would provide the information we need to explore options to enhance patron accessibility into the basement level of the library. And then once we have the scope of work, we'd be able to identify some relevant grants and hopefully secure funding for the project.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right, council, I look for a motion and support.
Motion.
Thank you, Jim.
Support.
Thank you, Jed. Any further discussion?
You have a question?
Yeah.
This is in your budget?
It is, yeah.
All right.
Yes, we're
Good.
budgeted for it.
All right, thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stephanie.
Good evening. First item I have on the agenda is a WINSETH proposal for the Thomasoni Memorial Arch Phase 2. As you're aware, the construction had started last fall for this project. It's completely grant funded, so we're looking for approval to move forward for the second phase.
And with just that one change?
Yep, so the change was that it's going to be at an hourly rate instead of a lump sum.
Council, I'll look for a motion support for the WITSEF proposal, Thomasoni Memorial Arch Phase 2.
Motion.
Thank you, Jim.
Second.
Thank you, Marty. Any further discussion?
I just have a question for Stephanie. Was there a lump sum to begin with?
Why was it?
No, what was it a lump sum to begin with?
What was the,
For this, it was for the
Was
same amount.
Same amount.
same amount, it was just a lump sum, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now it's hourly and exceed.
Yeah, so we just changed, I just consulted with Jim and decided the best would just be to change it to an hourly.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
The next item I have on the agenda, if you remember, we had purchased a property from St. Louis County, a residential property, because we're doing a pilot program with AEOA and IRRR. What we're doing is purchasing a tax forfeit property. AEOA will be renovating that property, and then we'll be able to get that back onto the tax rolls and sell it. So basically what has happened is we purchased the property from St. Louis County, and now we will be selling that property to AEOA. We have a letter here from Scott Zahorek, the executive director. They will be purchasing the property at the same price we had purchased it.
Great program that, piloting in Chisholm, Minnesota. Have to love it. Council, I look for a motion of support for the AEOA's request to purchase the parcel 020-0010-05940.
Make a motion.
Thank you, Marty.
Support.
Thank you, Jed. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Next item we have on the agenda with the retirement of Chief Manor. We do need to update our signers for the city. The proposal would be to update that to Tiffany Larson. So we have resolution number 0225-27 that would update Tiffany as a signer. So it would be myself, Devin, and Tiffany. So if myself or Devin is not available, we would have that third person.
Okay, hey, council, I look for a motion and support for resolution 0225-27.
Motion.
Thank you, Jim.
Support.
Thank you, Jed. Any further discussion?
Will this be a permanent thing until Tiffany retires?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a fun job.
20 years.
I'm just,
Got it.
or is it gonna go back to police chief when we hire a new one, that's all?
No,
Okay.
I think it'll stay where we're
Okay.
at, unless there's a reason to change it, but yeah.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
The next item we have is a presentation from Kimberly, so I'd like to introduce her. She's from the Minnesota Department of Agriculture. She'll be doing a presentation on spongy moth management, also known as gypsy moth, previously known as gypsy moth, so if that rings a bell. It did for me better than spongy moth. So she's here today to tell us what she's found in our area and what they are proposing for that treatment.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Bridget. Or Stephanie, excuse me.
Welcome, Kimberly.
Well, thank you, Councilmember Mayor, for having me. Hockey tonight. I am a long-term hockey mom, so I am surprised there's anyone in the room because I know how big hockey is. So good luck to the team this evening, and hopefully I can be done here and you can all get on. I'm sure it's going to be on radio or a station somewhere. So, well, thank you first and foremost for having me here today to share a little bit about spongy moth, which, as Stephanie mentioned, it was originally a couple years ago called gypsy moth. So it's the same insect. Actually, Mayor Lance and Council Member Varda, I believe you were here in 2019. When I came and presented about spongy moth. At that time, we were calling it gypsy moth, about an isolated population that was here in the city as well. So I'm back. I don't know if that's good news or bad news, but I wanted to share a little bit. So my goal tonight is to first talk about what is the impacts of this particular insect species, why we're concerned, why we do the management we do. Share a little bit about the biology of the insect, because without the biology of the insect we can't really manage for it, so we have to understanding that a little as well. And then I want to go into what we are proposing for management here within the city of Chisholm. So with that, let's get started. First and foremost, I'm going to share some good news and some bad news, and I'm going to start off with the bad news because I want to end with some really good news. So let's these are actually newspaper clips. So during areas of outbreak of spongy moth where this insect is established, they can get to incredibly outbreak populations where citizens, people are complaining. You're getting these news articles, and actually I was just reading about New York just a few years ago in regards to how they're talking about, you can read, raining down forest, it's biblical, the stuff of that nightmares are made of. Invasive spongy moth strips aspen trees foliage, damage, in Wisconsin. And so these are very common articles that hit when we are going through spongy moth outbreak populations in established areas. In 2023, the state of Wisconsin had the largest outbreak of spongy moth in its history. Just under 400,000 acres were defoliated from this particular insect pest. So it can get pretty widespread. The reason concern for spongy moth, it's a tree defoliator, so it can feed on 300 species of trees and shrubs. So it has a very wide host range, and across the landscape, it can strip thousands and billions of trees of leaves. Average, we see nationally, this insect defoliates about 880,000 acres on an annual basis. So it's pretty devastating in areas of outbreaks and areas of establishment. The picture I'm showing you is actually not a fall picture. This is a picture taken approximately in July, more like July. You can see that those brown areas are actually deciduous trees where their leaves have been completely stripped from this particular insect. We have another picture. Here's more defoliation. Again, it looks, you can see as far out, you can see in the landscape, trees stripped of their leaves. Again, this is an area of massive outbreak where you're getting that complete defoliation, or 80 to 90% defoliation in the canopy. The impact that it has to deciduous trees is it stresses them. It doesn't necessarily kill the trees. Any defoliator that we have in the environment is a stressor of trees. They don't necessarily kill the tree, but then it's insects and diseases that are able to move in and cause the mortality of that tree if there is stress due to drought and other things as well. As I mentioned, 300 species of trees. This is why they're so ferocious and why they can get established, and the impacts they have here is because of the wide host range. Some of those preferred species are some of the ones that we love. We'll go through here the preferred. You got apple, you got aspen, a lot of them in the areas, paper birch, mountain ash, and then oak is another big one that's very significant for these particular species. Going into the environmental impacts in our harvest, we are an industry, a logging industry, a very heavy logging industry. And this is just a list of some of the top species that we use for logging industry. And you can see some of the preferred defoliating species of trees are actually right here. You've got your quaking, your aspen, your oak, and it goes on. And then some of the non-preferred species or less preferred species that spongy moth will feed on, but they will feed on actually pine and spruce as well. And if they feed on a needle tree, such as a pine or spruce, if they feed those, that tree will die. They don't have the ability to releaf, so then you get defoliation and mortality of those species of trees. Spongy moth is also a human impact. The caterpillars have extremely long hairs, and during large outbreak populations, they'll break off and float in the air, and people may have very sensitive. So those folks who have very sensitivities may have allergic reactions. If it comes in contact with your skin, you may also get this allergic reaction. The article that we're talking about in New York, that just in 2021 when they had their outbreak, a lot of social media nowadays were talking about because the caterpillars were falling on them and they were getting on their necks and their skin, and so they were having some reactions due to that, the caterpillars ballooning in the air. Property nuisance in regards to both property and tourism. People do not want to be camping, recreating, biking, doing all their fun activities when you have massive outbreaks of this population. It can be to the point where it can cover road systems and you can actually be slippery. Very similar to maybe a forest tent caterpillar outbreak that you've been familiar with maybe a few years back, where you've had to shut down some road systems due to that greasy kind of road conditions. Similar damage. This particular pest is a federally regulated plant pest, so what that means is that we have concerns about it moving to areas of uninfestation, so then it gets regulated in areas where it's established. And the goal of that is to reduce the spread to new areas through human-assisted movement. Very similar to emerald ash borer, if you're familiar with that particular insect here in the state of Minnesota. So what is spongy moth? It is a species that's not native to the U.S. It's from Europe, introduced back in 1800s. It's been in the U.S. a very long time. We've been surveying for this insect, and I figured out over 50 years already. So it's been a big concern here in Minnesota. Our program's been in 1973. We continue to monitor for these populations. Our first management happened in 1980. It was actually in the city of Duluth. We had a trailer house came in that had egg masses on it. So had we not been established and doing this monitoring, spongy moth would be established where we're at. The insect itself is a very ferocious eater. It's actually a 3 foot by 3 foot in its entire life, not per day. So that's a little error on that screen. But a little bit about the spongy moth. It has one life stage. And so we utilize the life stage to do our management, to do our monitoring. And the stage that's most damaging is going to be the larva stage. This is the stage where it's doing the defoliation, where it's causing the impacts, the human impacts, the environmental impacts. And this is the stage that's most critical. Right now, they're sitting in their egg mass. They're bunkered down for the winter. They're going to have each egg mass contain 500 to 1,000 little viable caterpillars, so it doesn't take many egg masses in a new area to get established. Once they're done feeding as caterpillars, they no longer feed. Then their purpose in life is simply to mate and then reproduce and lay the eggs, and the cycle continues. So naturally, spongy moth does not move very easily on its own. So you're looking at that map going 1800, that was a long time ago. Why are we still managing and why we're concerned? Spongy moth can only move naturally by the ballooning of the tiny little caterpillar. So that's the only way this insect can actually move forward and move is through the ballooning activities. That female moth, even though her wings are very large in size, and I'll pass around to Riker Mount, even though her wings are very large in size, she simply can't get off the ground because her abdomen is so large, full of eggs, she simply can't fly. So the only way that they can move and move these distances through that larval ballooning. However, humans are really good at moving things and commodities great distances. And so what will happen is they'll lay egg masses on outdoor household articles, on firewood, on nursery stock, potentially in tourism. So let's say you're camper, you're camping, you're from the east, you come into Minnesota during that egg hatch stage, right in early June, and now you got little larvae hatching here right in Minnesota, and that's how things get established, is through that human assisted movement. So that's accelerated the natural spread of this insect along that advancing front. So where is spongy moth currently established? Spongy moth is currently established in the eastern part of the U.S., so all the blue areas is areas of establishment and where this insect is permanently established. The area in the green, the lime green, is the 10 states that are working together on a barrier zone concept with the U.S. Forest Service to slow the advancing spread of this insect. Currently, spongy moth is only established in 1/3 its geographical range that it can establish in here in the U.S. So we are basically protecting 2/3 of the U.S. and all of Minnesota at this stage. So this is where most of our work happens. Minnesota does have a lot at stake. And so getting into, we talked about there's the good news. We understand the biology of the insect, or let's talk about, that was the bad news. Let's talk about some of the good news. So what do we do for management? Minnesota, I kind of mentioned this, is a partnership with 10 states along the advancing front. This is a nationally known barrier zone concept for pest management. It's recognized around the world as one of the most successful barrier zone concept projects there is. The goal of the project is to reduce that spread by over 60% of its natural spread to new areas. So since 2000, we've been able to reduce that spread by over 60% by the work that we've been doing. And in some years, we've actually exceeded that 60% reduction. So this is the area that with and without our Slow the Spread project, had we not been managing this pest since the early 2000s, through this barrier zone concept, spongy moth would be established within the state of Minnesota and far to the west. With the Slow the Spread project, we've been able to suppress and slow that advancing front, and you can see it's a little more advanced in the northern region of Minnesota and Wisconsin, but in other regions of the country, it's definitely a lot slowed. We can slow it at much greater rates. So why do we do the program? What's the benefit? The benefit is a 3-to-1. So every dollar we do in prevention, it's $3 saved in cost due to everything from pesticide loading to quarantines to implications once that becomes established to those outbreak levels and all the impacts it has to lost trees, et cetera, environmental. So why do we do the program? Also, it's to help slow that advancing front. So this is an invasive insect pest. It does not have native predators to keep this population in check. So the only thing that really keeps this population in check is 2 insect diseases or sicknesses that impact spongy moth. These are not, again, native to the U.S., but they were introduced here in the U.S., and they've been keeping this population in check in areas of establishment to cause collapses in populations when they're at outbreak levels. So the goal is to help with Antimorpha mamiga and NPV are the 2 diseases that move in with this population, is if we can slow that advancing front, it allows these diseases to kind of keep up with that population so that we can have quicker and faster collapses once it comes into these new areas. So how do we do this? I don't know if anyone has seen these. We've plastered them throughout town, we've sent about every mile, we'll have an early detection survey trap. These traps are placed. We have over 20,000 of these traps placed in the eastern half of Minnesota. It gives us an indication. So as I mentioned, only male moths fly, females do not. So we are trying to detect those early startup populations before they permanently get established. Male moths can travel great distances, so just because you have caught male moths in some of these traps doesn't necessarily mean establishment. We really have to see a pattern, an increase over time to really zero in on these isolated populations. So the survey data is incredibly critical. And through that survey data, we've been able to identify areas in Minnesota that need some management to help slow this spread. Think of it as a forest fire. As the forest fire is moving forward and the sparks are flying out in advance, we're trying to stomp out those initial sparks as it goes forward into the population, coalesces and grows. So we have operations over 105,000 acres in 9 counties. In the north, you can see the first time we've ever been in Aiken and Itasca. I was in front of the county commissioners in those 2 counties. Carlton, Pine, St. Louis. And then in central, we see Anoka. That's actually the city of Coon Rapids. So we'll actually do management right in an urban center. And down in the southeast, a city of Winona is down in there, and 5 additional rural blocks. So what does this look like for the city of Chisholm? We actually have 2 blocks that intercept the city boundaries, about 3,500 acres in proximity, and those are the 2 blocks that are being proposed. And so what is being proposed for those 2 blocks? Back in 2019, we actually used a product called Bacillus thuringiensis crustacei, which is BTK. It was to kill the larva. We are actually looking at little star larvae to have mortality. This time around, we're actually, because of the extremely low-level populations, we're hoping to utilize a mating disruption. And so what is the mating disruption? It's a synthetic pheromone that prevents males from finding females. So we apply basically this pheromone into the air, lands through aircraft, it's in the canopy, and it actually confuses the males from finding females before they can able to mate. So it doesn't necessarily kill anything, we just simply confuse the heck out of him. Basically they die before mating occurs. So that's what our goal is. This product is species specific, so the only thing that will impact is the male moth itself. So it's extremely species specific. It's EPA certified organic for organic production. It's non-toxic, biodegradable, made of food grade products, and like I mentioned, very species specific to spongy moth itself. I actually have a sample of the product itself. This is called Splat GMO, and I'll talk a little bit about that. So it's Splat GMO for Gypsy Moth Organic. What I'm holding is a sample of approximately 2 acres. So we will be applying at an extremely low rate, enough just so it floods the area of the pheromone throughout the area. So how do we get citizens involved in making sure folks know where and what is happening? On our website, we do have an interactive map. More often than not, folks want to know, am I in a block? Am I outside a block? Where am I in proximity to these geographical areas? They can go on our map and type in their address, and it'll actually show them if they're in or outside of a map, or inside or outside of a block. How we do treatment notifications, 2 weeks prior. So this particular mating disruption application is likely going to happen. We're going to get it out right before the male moths start flying. So it's going to be mid to late July is when when we'll do the project. Prior to that, late June, your residents who are inside that block will receive a postcard of notification letting them know that the project is going to be happening. There is going to be a public meeting that's virtual that folks can go online and sign up for. It's on Thursday, March 20th at 6 p.m. We will be putting out a press release here in about a week and a half announcing that public meeting. Actually, it's going out next Tuesday. It'll be announcing that public meeting as well as other public meetings across Minnesota. And then we work with local law enforcement and emergency management during operations to make sure that they're aware. We often get 911 calls, and so we want to make sure emergency management is aware of the projects. The one thing that's unique about the mating disruption project, because it's being applied at such a low level, that people will see a low-flying aircraft, but they will not see it dispensing any product. And so they're alarmed at, why is this aircraft so low, flying, turning, making turns, coming back. They'll do a single pass over the area, but that tends to be the biggest concern, is they don't actually see the product, good or bad. A lot of times they get upset if they see product, and then they get upset if they don't see product. So it's kind of a combination, but this particular one, you will not see any product. The best way citizens can get involved and know immediately, like day of notifications, is through email and text notification. So on our website, they can literally sign up for a text or email, and I'd encourage all the council member or mayor to sign up as well, because you'll get a nice little text leading up to operations. So like a week in advance, we'll tell you we're coming up in operations. This is our targeted date. We will text the night prior. We're going to be in the air this date. We'll also then text the morning of, or when we're doing operations, and then when we're completed. So we'll continue to keep people informed of when we're going to be in the area and out of the area. It's going to be a single operation, a one time. We're going to be passing through one time, and we'll be done for this year. We also have a report of past hotline, toll-free number that you can listen to a recording. I will say that's less preferred in regards to what we've been seeing in the past years. More people like the text messaging. Before we do operations, there will be a complete environmental assessment. So this project, all the products that we use in these projects have already been scoped on an environmental impact statement. So nationally, there's only a small handful of products that we can use in all federal programs. Mating disruption, BTK, and there's a couple other ones that we can also utilize. So these have been already scoped for like human health, environmental impacts, but we will be doing a site-specific EA, and the site-specific EA, what that looks for is threatened and endangered species at these unique sites. So that will go through Department of Natural Resources for state-listed threatened and endangered species, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and the Historical Society for any historical sites. I don't anticipate anything because we just have never had an issue with, because it's so species specific. So they're irrelevant, but we'll go through that process to make sure the correct individuals are reviewing the information. Any questions and comments, we'll also incorporate into that environmental assessment as well. So I know I ran through that really quickly, but wanted to make sure I respected your time. Any questions that you may have?
Well, thank you very much. I do have a quick question. So if some of your citizens out and about and they feel like they have found, when it's in the caterpillar stage, should they be contacting the Department of Agriculture?
Absolutely. So anytime a citizen has a suspect, like they believe they can see one of the life stages, because we are still trying to identify these isolated population, we definitely want to know. So we'd encourage them, there is the report of past number, it's an email or a text message. They can actually take pictures. The best thing is obviously to take a picture. If you can collect a caterpillar, great, but taking pictures and sending it in for positive confirmation is the best way to do that.
Council, any questions?
Is there, say there's bad weather, does the plane, do they cancel it for the day? And then that's emailed to people, or?
Correct. So we can, depending on weather, this is all weather dependent, we could postpone operations. This particular operation is a little more forgiving in regards to with the BTK product, it was such a fine mist, and we would lose evaporation windows, after 11 o'clock or so, because it was such a fine mist, it would evaporate before it would come down to the trees. This particular product we're able to treat throughout the entire day, so we may delay. Typically our operations start at 7 a.m. A little bit later, BTs are 5 a.m., we're up at 5 a.m. This one will be about 7 a.m. we'll start. I anticipate northern Minnesota, so we'll do all this work out of a couple of airports. It should take about 3 days to do all of Carleton County, St. Louis, Itasca, all the blocks that we have in northern. It's about 40,000 acres. This is the second largest operation in the state of Minnesota. We had proposed 170,000 acres this year, but due to budget cuts, we had to come down to 105,000. And I will tell you that this is also all 100% federally funded, and so it's dependent on federal funding and securing those federal funds. So we will keep you posted on that as well.
Mr. Mayor, one question. Are these techniques utilized in other countries too, like Canada? I'm assuming most of the same problem.
I do not know if this particular mating disruption is utilized in Canada, but I do know they do have outbreaks of spongy moth in the Canadian areas. I do not know how much operations, like they're not doing like the U.S. is doing in regards to the barrier zone concept, because there's a cold climate. There's a northern portion of the impact of the population. At one point in time, they did not believe it would get to northern. First, they didn't think it would get to Wisconsin. They didn't think it would get to the UP of Michigan because it just has this cold, intolerance. It's getting established. UP has had outbreaks. It's getting established in northern Minnesota and Cook and Lake County. So, So in regards to products, the mating disruption is also relatively. It's used at extremely low level populations only. So once we get to outbreaks or where the insects can be easily found through egg masses or other form, then it becomes ineffective because they use other cues for mating, and it becomes ineffective. It's just not effective product. So most often we see more of the 4A, the BT product, being utilized in other areas.
Makes sense.
Or what we also see is more broad spectrum insecticides getting used. That's more widespread mortality of other insects and non-targets because people just want to kill the critters. Yes.
So a little bit different subject just because it's a different animal, but we used to get the forest 10 caterpillar outbreaks, and it seemed like they would come around every 10 or 12 years and just an ungodly amount of them. And it seems like the last 2 cycles there haven't been nearly as many. And have they been using similar treatment programs? Is that why, or are they doing different treatment programs, or is it just?
I think
I
think we're getting a little lucky with Mother Nature, but forest hen caterpillar is a native insect species.
Okay.
So the population is able to be in check with a lot more of the native kind of predators, but it is cyclical. It has about every 10 years or so that you'll see it. We thought we were going to get a big outbreak. I think it was 2013, 14, somewhere in there. And then we had the polar vortex and it crashed. And so that saved us.
Okay.
So freezing cold weather, I know as much as we hate it, it's great to keep those populations in check. So that happened to have that crash. So, but what you are experiencing with forest hen caterpillars is very similar to what this insect will do.
Yep.
The only difference is because of the invasive nature as it comes, that first flush when it comes through a new area, that's where you have the most significant impacts.
Okay.
Because it's stressing the trees at a much higher level. Those trees may be at an old year class. They may be stressed already. That's where we see a lot more of the impacts is that initial flush. Eventually, spongy moth will start kind of cycling, and you won't get these. And hopefully the virus and the entomophaga and the fungal disease and the virus keeps that population in check. Wisconsin didn't fare so good. They thought they had, they did have both the fungal disease and the virus present in their population, but in 2023 they experienced the worst outbreaks they've ever seen.
Okay.
And that happened to do because we didn't have the ideal weather conditions for those diseases to kind of build. And so that caused outbreaks.
So we're seeing, obviously, preemptively trying to stop the spread, from going further. But are we seeing anything where we're pulling back and actually gaining ground, to?
The population kind of ebbs and flows. So you're not going to get a perfect kind of push forward. You're going to see this kind of back and forth, kind of following, until it kind of keeps getting established and it'll keep kind of. What we are seeing in Minnesota is in St. Louis County. 2 years ago, so right around 2022, we started seeing a significant increase. 2023, we seen our male moth numbers went out of the roof. We were like, whoa, what just happened? And it has a lot to do with the population outbreak that was happening in Wisconsin. So they were having an outbreak right in the Bayfield Peninsula of Wisconsin. And that is the only thing stopping was the large Lake Superior, and they were actually ballooning over. We were getting a lot of ballooning from that and a lot of male moth dispersal happening from that event. It's going to be a critical survey year this year because we've seen that population starting to crash. And so when things start sticking around that's where we want to do some more management. So this is kind of our critical survey year too. It will continue. We're only slowing the spread, and we had that name way before COVID ever did. But slowing the spread is what we're doing. So we're not going to eradicate it. We're not going to stop it. In some areas of that front, they have had pushing it back in Ohio, but they're dealing with agricultural fields, a large landscape of agriculture with, just a little bit of, we have a massive forest here. We're not gonna push it back. What we're gonna do is at most slow it, and that's our goal. Yeah.
Okay. So the big takeaway is that Wisconsin is directly responsible for our.
Put that on record. Put that on record. I hope somebody from Wisconsin is listening. Yeah, I tell them all that. I do tell them all the time. Do your job.
Thank you very much for your information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So, spongy mouth management, dire process. Keep up the good work. Councillor Oliva, good evening.
Thanks, Mayor. So speaking of age-friendly, I'm asking the City Council permission tonight to use city property adjacent to Heritage Manor, which is located east of the building, for the development of a community garden. I have formed a group of people from around the city that are willing to make this into fruition. The Chisholm Beautification Association has kindly provided funds to start this venture. In your paperwork, I've enclosed a copy of the soil sample that was taken from the area and the 10-step process we've been following to develop this garden. And I also enclosed a map, thanks to Susan, of the area as well. You can kind of see from the overhead view. We have 2 lots there. There will be no permanent structures put on this at all. This will help the nursing home, all for people that want to plant a garden inside there. We'll have safe. We want to develop safe access from the nursing home to this garden. We want to have elevated garden boxes for those people. We'd like to develop a flower garden somewhere down by the street there. So yeah, we have plans, but like I said, we follow that 10-step process. It's going really well. We're on step 5 right now, and we're right at the point where we need to ask permission for use of that property.
Excellent. Well, Councillor, if I say one thing, congratulations. Good work. Definitely a daunting task to start this up from the beginning, especially trying to get people engaged. I think this is going to be fantastic. So,
thank you.
Good luck, and you have my full support.
I also want to add too, we do have a lot of support from the local greenhouses as well. So.
Mm-hmm. And you've talked with Heritage Manor? Everything's...
Yep, I spoke with Janice there, and she said that she was the activity director. I don't know if she's there anymore, but she was all for it. I tried getting hold of Shane Roach. We kind of played phone tag for a while there, but Cheryl, I think Cheryl or Amy from the county must have spoke with him as well too. And
I did too.
Oh, you just have to, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, great additive bonus for the residents there to be able to get some outside, activities.
So Jed, I read the map as if there's a walkway between the 2 areas, or is it just one big area?
That's the city right away between the 2 parcels.
Yeah.
So
Is that going to be a walkway for the people that are taking care of it?
Well, not tentatively, because there's a door access out the east side of the building there. They'll kind of come up towards that back part of the area, kind of by 6th Street Northeast there, because it kind of opened up the area there. We're not going to remove any trees and that stuff there, but that's just, like I said, this is the right away in the map right now. But.
Also, do we need to talk about that sidewalk?
What's that?
That sidewalk?
Yeah.
So also, we do have funding to put a sidewalk in where the raised beds are gonna be. Unfortunately, since we didn't get our PFA funding to do that road, we're not gonna do it this year for the sidewalks, so we'll have to wait until we do that project, because I don't wanna mobilize just to do the sidewalks there. But there will be a permanent, I think in the interim, there'll be something also to utilize, but there will be a permanent sidewalk for wheelchairs and that kind of stuff too.
And we have a lot of water access too. There's a fire hydrant back there. We can have some filling stations so people can water. We can put a portable pump out there. So, like I said, nothing's gonna be a permanent structure. So if the city just all of a sudden wants to build something there, we can move it out and put it somewhere else.
Is one of the next steps actually to create like a map of the area, or like
Yeah,
the
we'll
plan
have
of it?
a good map, we got a whole plan, a formal design, so that worked pretty nice.
Excellent.
Any trees have to come down?
I don't think so, no. Good.
Excellent. Well, council, I'd look for a motion and support to allow the use of city property for a community garden.
Motion.
Thank you, Jim.
Support.
Thank you, Marty. Any further discussion?
Do you have to abstain from this, or how does that work?
I don't think
Well, you wouldn't have a direct financial.
No, okay.
You selling seed?
You're not growing any cannabis up there, are you?
We're cultivating.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, everyone.
Good job. Hey, does anybody have anything under miscellaneous? Oh, hearing none, I would look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion?
Is that Marty?
Yes.
Thank
I
you,
have
Marty.
I have one thing I want to add, I'm sorry. So speaking of LCCMR, we don't have a rep from northeastern Minnesota up here on that board, and that's a governor-appointed individual. We should really think about do a letter of recommendation from our city to get someone on that board. I know Commissioner Djokovic has been interested in talking to people getting on that thing, so something to think about.
Do you know if they appointed the last seat, or is there still a seat open?
From my understanding, it's still open.
Okay. That's something to put at the forefront. Thank you. All right, got a motion from Councilor Halverson to adjourn.
Support.
Thank you, Councilor Varda. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Have a good night, everybody.